Really excited. I know we're gonna have great weather on Sunday. Maybe you guys are running there in the audience. Yes, there we go. Okay, awesome. My name is. You're not running? No. Okay. My name is Steve Buzzard. I'm actually, MC here at the Expo, but I will be the guy at the start line and the finish line. It's a really cool thing to see you all at the start, running by. So make sure you wave and say hi. And I'll meet down at the finish line. As I promise all runners, I will try to announce every single name that I can. Okay. I do try my very best. I will be there until the very end at 1:30. So excited. We have a great series that we put together during these expos, just kind of give you a little insight. I'm really excited for this one. Jenn Kistler-McCoy, that is her right there. Let's say hi to Jen. Come on, give her a little applause, right? Make it feel good. And she is going to be interviewing Stephanie Bruce. So Stephanie Bruce is a professional runner. Son is obviously right here in the front row, no doubt about it, okay? And she is going to talk about, and we got another child over there. So what are we talking about? We're talking about running and motherhood, right? They go hand in hand. So Jen, take it away.
Awesome, thank you so much. So I'm Jenn Kistler-McCoy. I'm the Director of Partnerships and Community Engagement from the Sacramento Running Association. And so on behalf of CIM, I am so excited to welcome this world-renowned athlete, Stephanie Bruce, to Sacramento and to our talk series. So Stephanie Bruce is not only a professional athlete, she's a mother of 3 young children and an entrepreneur, is a co-founder of Picky Bars and also Running with the Bruces and written growth retreats, and an inspiration to people all over the world. And as a 3-time national champion, this is Steph's 19th marathon. So welcome, Steph.
Thank you so much. It's great to be back in Sacramento. I ran here in 2016 and 2018, and I was second place both times, so I came back here to try to place 1 position higher.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. How is it training for your 19th marathon? Like, how are you doing this?
Yeah, a lot of people ask, like, as a mom, balancing running professionally, and they're like, so inspirational, but you know what I remind people? This is my job. And I think a lot of people don't give themselves enough credit because most of the people out here racing, you guys are trying to fit in your runs before work, after work, where I'm like, I actually get paid to eat, paid to sleep, paid to recover. So when you think about motivation, I bet everyone will have that little extra bit of motivation. No, I just think that, this has been my job for the last 12 to 13 years running professionally, and it's hard to explain, but the motivation is just so intrinsic that it genuinely does not feel hard to get out the door. Sure, there are harder days than others, but a long time ago when I was younger and something sort of shifted in my life personally, running became something not that I have to do, but that I get to do. And so thinking about this being my 19th marathon, I think it's an advantage because I can look back and rely on old training cycles, old race plans. On days that you don't feel your best, you can still get the most out of yourself. So since I've had so much experience in the distance, there's nothing really that surprises me, and there's nothing that scares me about it.
Amazing. So if you're thinking about your first or second marathon, what is the differences that you've had, compared to now, like your training and kind of how you have to do everything, or even your state of mind?
Sure. I think my first marathon was very much sort of a test the waters kind of experience. I graduated college, and the coach I was working with at the time, he was like, hey, based on how you run and the workouts that you excel at, I think that the marathon could be your event. And at the time, I loved, like most people who come out of college, and I think I'm a miler, and I was obviously very far from a world-class miler, but I was kind of stubborn. And then, he was like, why don't you try the marathon? And that's when I learned it was 22 miles. And I was like, I don't understand why people would do this. And so I went into it very conservative, which I think served me really well because I didn't have the hitting the wall experience. And I actually finished thinking, I think I could do this again. And I think most people, when they run their first, regardless of what happens after you cross the finish line, you might have that initial, say it didn't go well, or you have to stop and walk. You finish and you initially are like, I'm never doing that again. And then a week later, you're online being like, okay, which marathon am I doing next? So it's a very addictive event because I think what happens to you is not just the actual like distance you're racing, but it's actually the training and who you become when you're training for the event. And I think that's what's so great about the running community. No matter what speed we are all joined by some common force of why we're out there running. And you don't get that anywhere else. It's such a special community. So I would say for each marathon that I've had, from my first all the way now, I've sort of dedicated each cycle to a certain meaning or mantra, like whatever was going on in my life, I was able to attach, this marathon is coming back from kids. This marathon is dealing with grief in my family. And I think when you do that, the meaning of the actual build towards the marathon becomes that much more powerful.
So what's your mantra for this race?
It's a little more like tongue-in-cheek, but it's so I turned 40 this January, and I had my third baby last year. She'll be 15 months. And honestly, a lot of people in the pro running world think that when you hit a certain age, like that's it. And if you're past PR age or if you're past what they would consider a prime, you kind of get, I don't know, you get sort of pushed aside a little bit. So I think my mantra has been, I'm not done yet.
That's amazing. I love that. I'm 41, and I'm going to use that for my next level. So you mentioned other distances too. You've had great success other distances, speeder, half marathon. But what is the specific thing about the marathon distance that much of like training or other aspects of your life?
Yeah, I think the marathon it's just that distance where you just don't know what's going to happen in good ways and in bad ways, right? You can do all the training and then something happens on race day that was totally out of your control, whether that was the weather was against you, you have kids and your kids got sick too before the race, and then you think, oh, that whole training cycle was wasted. But I think what I love about the event is like you have the ability to reinvent yourself each time you get to the start line, and then you cross the finish line. You have so much that you can look back and say, like, people only see the result, but they don't know the story and the build up, and only you know that. And yeah, I don't know, it's not just 26.2 miles. It was a journey of self-discovery, and I think Catherine Switzer had this great quote many years ago. She said, if you're losing faith in humanity, go out and watch a marathon, and 100%. You're standing on the streets and you just see human stories running by one. And like I said, there's just no event like that. And I don't know, the risk is so great in the event, but when it works out, the reward is just so sweet.
I noticed on one of your Instagram posts recently, you were talking about the differences in training this time around. I know you have lots of people you run with and train, and it sounds like you have solo runs too. So how is that connected to this race?
Sure, this year was really unique. Obviously, it's an Olympic year. We had the Olympic marathon trials back in February, and I made the decision last year to sort of, I don't know the best way to explain it. As a pro athlete, you sort of have to make decisions throughout your career, and I know I wanted to add to our family, but I was sort of also at the top of my game. But I felt that if I let go the chance of trying to expand our families too long, that maybe I would get too old as far as that works. And so I took the chance of trying to have another baby, and I knew it was going to be a risk because then the Olympic marathon trials were going to be 5 months after she was born, and realistically, that would have been too short of a timeline to really come back and try to make the team. But what I did is I attached a mini goal after I gave birth. I said, all right, I know I'm not making this Olympic team, but is there a chance that I could actually just get to the start line healthy, not sacrifice anything in those early postpartum months? And could I actually finish a marathon, at 4.5 months postpartum? So I was really proud to have been able to do that. I ran 2:47 at the trials, which was, much farther off my PR, but I definitely had a lot of people remind me relative to what people are running, that was really great. So yeah, I just think that this training cycle is unique because a lot of my teammates ran Chicago Marathon, New York, so they were all done by the time I was racing CIM. And so I ended up just having more solo long runs. But I think what's really what I take as solace in that is a few weeks ago, I did a 24-mile run like most people do, but it was completely solo. I had my coach drive alongside. And I just walked away from that day and I was like, no one was there. That happens in the race a lot of times. You're out there by yourself. Sure, you have lots of people around, but sometimes when we're racing at our level, we can be completely by ourselves. And you have to ask yourself, how much do I want it? Because you're the only one pushing. So I really leaned into those days where I was by myself because those are the days where things don't come easy and you don't have that camaraderie. So even though it was tough at times during the cycle, I really enjoyed having those solo efforts. And the truth of balancing, having a little one, sleep was not ideal through a lot of the segment, but my husband was awesome. He took many nights where our baby was up crying and I've been recovered. Like I said, see, I'm not that inspirational. I have the luxury of having help, having support. So sometimes it's a good reminder to everyone in the audience, whatever you're doing is probably way better than you think. So whatever your goals are for Sunday, you just have to give yourself a lot more credit for the effort that you're putting in balancing life, balancing family, balancing full-time jobs. And I don't know, it's okay to give yourself a pat on the back before you get to the start line.
How important is it for you to find that community and lean on the people that can help you? And I know do have a great running community, fun staff, and the tree with leading on the people you have talent.
That's pivotal in many of our careers. We would not be able to do the things that we do. We have coaches and support staff that set up tables for us. We're able to practice. How it works with pros is we have tables and bottle stations. We have our own position. So they have the bottles on the table and in practice, they set that up for us. We get to practice grabbing them. And then we have people holding stopwatches all the time. We have massage therapists, chiros, physios that are generally always available to see us. So it's a huge team effort. And I think when you're out there racing, the actual result for me is not necessarily about me, but it's for the people that have been in my corner the whole time. So when you're having good or bad miles throughout the race, I'm thinking of the people who has your back, who is supporting you. And it's huge. And my staff, where I've lived the last 12 years, is an incredible running community. And then there's people that I have met online, or I have met in the social media world that tell me that they feel the same connection to me, even though we don't know each other. So there's just a really unspoken bond between all of us there.
So you have talked about, like we mentioned before, a lot about not struggle, but just balancing motherhood, balancing parenthood, all this kind of stuff. How are you able to balance that? And how has your training changed from the earlier years and being able to manage all the different things that you do, running your own business and
That's a great. Can you guys hear me okay, by the way? Great. It's a great question. I like to say that balance is a myth. None of us are actually balancing. We're sort of just surviving whatever stage we're in. And I think it's really important to acknowledge some things take a back seat. Times during my marathon builds, things that the family would normally be doing take a back seat. Because my training and my running does become required. But then there are weekends where let's say I have a really hard long run, I'll run 20 to 22 miles with like 6 miles in marathon effort towards the end, finish that, and then we drive 2 hours down the mountain and we go to one of my son's baseball tournaments. So it's just a constant sort of like, okay, who's got the priority today, and then who does it shift to tomorrow? So there's a lot of ebb and flow within the family. So I don't like to think that balance exists very much, because I think it can be sort of this facade that we feel like we need to chase, and it's okay to acknowledge that it's very hard to do. Sometimes kids are upset with me because I'm being selfish with my running, and sometimes I'm thinking, oh, why did you guys have to get a cold this week? And there's a chance I could get a cold. So yeah, it's just my family, we came up with kind of this like Team Bruce. Our last name is Bruce. And Team Bruce means whoever is needing the most support at the moment, like that's who it goes to. So a year ago when Sophia was really little, everyone was like all hands on deck for her. You know, when the boys have their baseball tournaments, youth is running our life. So it just kind of shifts day to day and week. And I think how that has affected my training is I've had to take the initiative knowing, okay, if I'm on my feet all weekend at one of their tournaments, maybe I run a little less than what's on my schedule on Monday. And that has definitely taken maturity over the years, because a lot of times you just want to see what's on your schedule and you want to get those miles in. But I've realized it's better to show up 99%, 1% undertrained than 101% and be overtrained. So that means maybe cutting some mileage out, maybe taking a day off when I feel like a cold could be coming, versus when I was younger, I might have pushed through those things a little more just to be stubborn.
Thanks, man. It seems like there's so much magic within your family, you know, what you're creating, having these kids, you know, grow up with this motivation and showing up for each other. It's just amazing to have that influence.
Thank you. I don't know if it's magic. I appreciate that. I think what has been really important to me is like trying to be very real about like what family life and what, like I said, balance or not balance looks like. And it's not necessarily magical. It can be a customer shit show some of the time. But I don't know. That's real life, and I think everyone can relate to just. Even though I became a mother and I'm trying to chase dreams and chase motherhood, I think that they can exist at the same time, and you don't have to give up one in order to achieve another.
It's one of the things I'm a mother of 3 as well, so it's just seeing you being so real on your Instagram and just looking out like this is what's really happening every single day. Just trying to show up, maybe having to take a step back. Do you feel like there's power in sharing your vulnerabilities with the world?
I do. I mean, it's strange, right? Social media, sometimes people can be like, you know, how real is it? And it sometimes can give people an unrealistic view of what other lives are like. And so I think my like goal and mission has just been like, we all have stories, we all have backgrounds that connect us, and a lot of it started years ago when I had kids, and I was like, wow, like I'm experiencing a lot of things that I'm not told about after having babies.
How are you?
I just wondered if others' experiences, so that was my intention to share. And then a lot of it happened when I lost my dad when I was in high school, and then I lost my mom a few years ago to breast cancer, and that just period of feelings of grief, it almost felt wrong to keep it inside, because it's like you're asking people that feel this way. And I think the more that I shared, I just had a lot of different people reach out privately, and they were like, thank you so much. Like, it almost validated how they felt. And yeah, so I don't know. I just think you'd be amazed at how many people are experiencing the same thoughts, the same feelings as you, that why not put it out there, and strangers can make a beautiful connection online, and you might never meet them, but you never know if, you know, you change someone's life just just by simply putting out what was your truth.
Amazing how many universal experiences there are, especially when you're like in the nitty gritty of life. And wow, there's a lot of other people in the same boat. What advice would you have for people who are maybe would like to connect with more people and share some of the things they're going with and they're nervous to do so, whether it's on social media or just in other communities?
Yeah, I mean, I break down why you're nervous, and I think that's any human, right? You want to join a group run or a community run, and you show up and you think, I'm going to be the slowest, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. But if you just remember, so many people are thinking that. Like I usually open many talks that I do to like, I'm not nervous, you're nervous, because I get nervous, and I've spoken for many years, but I think once you just like put yourself on the level that so many other people are feeling that way, and I think people might fear because they think, what if I put something out and I'm going to get criticized? But the right people that are following you, or the right people that your story is going to resonate with, they're not going to criticize you, and you shouldn't worry about the people that are criticizing you because they're not your people anyway.
I know a lot of people are kind of nervous to share their ambitions. So if you have a goal for a race, or let's say you're running CIM, you're like, I want to do this. A lot of people are scared to say that. Why do you share your goals, and what do you draw from them? Does that help you achieve them? How do you feel?
And it just, honestly, it feels very natural. Like I told you guys I want to win. Guess what? If I don't win on Sunday, are you guys going to be like, shoot, it's totally full of crap? You know? I mean, maybe if I finished 200 place, or like she was really off with her goals. But no, I just think it's like letting go of the fear that the goal you put out there and then you not reaching it doesn't mean you're any less of a person, right? It just means that you were brave or bold enough to put it out there, and whatever optimistic reality you're living in. I think that's wonderful, because then more people would put it out there. And if you judge someone for putting it out there and then not reaching it, maybe you're judging them because you feel really guarded and you feel scared to put it out there. And of course, we all have those, like, I used to have a goal that I would tell people, and then like a goal that sits in my heart that I'm not going to share. But then I realized it's almost like, why not put your heart out there? Because yeah, if I don't meet the goal, it's not going to hurt anymore because I put it out there. I didn't put it out there. So yeah, I would just encourage you, be brave, be bold, and don't be afraid to dream it out loud.
It's okay for people to know you're disappointed too, and maybe just to kind of connect with you in that way. Like, oh man, I'm sorry that you didn't get your goal. I know you decided to retire originally in 2022, right? So what changed your mind?
So a little backstory. I think that I explained in 2021. My mom had basically been diagnosed with breast cancer a few years earlier, and for many years we were kind of riding the roller coaster of not knowing, how long that she had. And I would say that I was living with a lot of, look back now, call it anticipatory grief, because we knew that she was going to pass eventually, but we didn't know when. And she ended up dying in June of 2021. And then the rest of that year, physically, I just felt very heavy in my training and racing. And I just had like a myriad of symptoms where I wasn't really sure. I was like, is this like old age? Is this when like my running career is now coming to an end? And so I ended up going to see a couple doctors. And when I saw one of them, they ordered an EKG, and they said, you know what, we see a little something on that EKG, but we're just not sure. So they sent me to get an echocardiogram. And strangely enough, the tech, which they normally don't do this, he said, have you ever had an echo before? And I said, no. He goes, well, does your father get echoes? And I said, well, my dad died when I was 18, so I'm not really sure. And then essentially when I got sent to the cardiologist, they told me that I was born with a congenital heart condition. It's actually the most common one. It's called bicuspid aortic valve disease. And so about 2% of the population are born with this. So everyone else has 3 what's considered flaps in their heart, 3 cusps. and people with bicuspid aortic valve disease have 2. So the 3 flaps that I had, 2 of them fused together, so then now I have 2. So what happens over time is when the chamber in your heart closes, instead of blood coming back out, it sort of gets trapped and it doesn't close all the way. And what that does to your heart over time, it's considered turbulent. So it has turbulence on your heart. And that weakens the valve, and then eventually you either have to have the valve repaired or replaced. And so here I was at the end of that year. My mom had just died, and I was 38. Both of my parents were gone. And I was like, hey, like, maybe this is it. Maybe this is like that moment where I'm supposed to retire from running. Maybe the feelings I'm having is from my heart. So I made this big announcement, told the running community, come along with me. I'm going to go out on my own terms. And then what happened was that whole year went amazing. I ran Boston Marathon. I ran a PR there. I took 12th place. I won my 3rd national title. I was running PRs on the road. I ran 31, 49 and the 10K on the road. And I was like, okay, like, one, this isn't making sense to me because I thought I was sort of hitting the end. And I ended up going to see a wonderful sports cardiologist. And he did a test and he
I'm
said,
so
you are
sorry.
great. Your heart is beautiful. And he goes, we're going to see you every year for the rest of your life, and that's how we'll monitor how you're doing. And I see no reason for you to retire at this point. And so I got to the end of the year, and it was really difficult because now I put everything else in already. I said I was retiring. I actually threw a huge retirement party at the New York City Marathon. It was pretty awesome. But I had changed my mind. But I was very nervous at first to say, will you put this out there? Like, you can't change your mind and go back on that. And I realized, why am I like, I just had a change of heart, and if my family's okay with it, my sponsor, my coaches, and my teammates still like working with me, let's just kind of see what happens. And then I also realized all of those feelings I was having was honestly just grief of my mom dying, and it wasn't anything like physical that was holding me back. So I just said, I think I still have a lot more in me. And that brought me to 2023. But then came the decision, but wait a minute, I'm going to turn 40. We do want to have another baby. Can I try to do that and still come back? And I think a lot of people in my position would have said, just hold off on having the baby because your career is going so well. The odds stacked against me. I said, let's try, have another baby. I was fortunate to get pregnant. And then here I am trying to make a resurgence.
Amazing, because in all aspects, you don't want to have any regrets, right? So whether it's your career or your family, it's like you do want to do everything in it, you know. So how has that shift? So coming back, having your daughter reshaped your perspective when it comes to training going forward?
I mean, it's so hard, right? Because I have so many teammates and younger athletes in the sports who don't have children, and I get it. I was in once. We eat, sleep, and breathe running. Our goals are huge, but I also missed the Olympic team in 2020 by 19 seconds. So that would be about the distance from here to the end of the hallway and that wall. So 3rd place is up there. I missed the marathon team. And at that moment, I realized you cannot let your career be defined by if you make an Olympic team or not, because on any given day, things can change. And one day, you're better than the person that got 3rd place, and on another day, they're better than you. But your family, and your children, and the people in your lives, they will always be there, and they're the constant, and they're not replaceable in the moments of, trying to make an Olympic team, and that's what I've devoted my entire career towards, and I have missed 4 times trying to make it. But I just said I could not get to the end of my career and say, like, that was the only thing that defined me. I have to define my career based on, did I just get everything out of myself the best way I could doing it the right way, doing it as a clean athlete, staying healthy as a woman, treating my body well, being able to have children, hopefully bringing people along the way and along for the ride and letting them see that running is fun. Running will break your heart, but you will come crawling back every time and 100% worth it. And I want to trade not making that Olympic team for all the experiences that I've had in my running career.
I don't know, I have a hard time with this sometimes as, getting older. I kind of reminisce about past greatness or what I've done before. And it's really tough to tap into who you are now as a person. How are you able to do that and become a stronger version of yourself?
Yeah, that is a $1,000,000 question. I honestly don't know if I have the answer because I think I'm just starting to hit that point where I'm not as fast as I once were, and I don't really know what my limits are, and I don't know what my aging curve is right now. And so part of me will find that out on Sunday. But I don't know. I think I'm just trying to give myself grace. I'm trying to meet myself where I'm at, and I don't know. I had this thing kind of hit me this year when a lot of the running industry, once you get past, like I said, 35, 36, you're considered very old in the sport. And I was like, why is that a bad thing? Like, isn't that, to me, I'm like, I take so much pride in that I have stayed healthy over the last 15 years of my career, and I haven't had one major injury in the last 13 years. I haven't broken bones. I've been able to give birth to 3 children. And I'm like, can't that be something that we celebrate? And then it gives permission to people who maybe just joined the sport at 44 years old to say, you do have your whole running career ahead of you. And you have no idea. Usually someone like that, they're going to keep setting PRs because they're so new to the sport. But even for me, if I don't run PRs in all my events, but I'm still out there and trying to kick my own butt, because that's really what it's all about. Like how good can you be against yourself? That's awesome. And I hope more people realize it's a beautiful thing to age because it means that we are still alive. And having experienced losing my dad when he was 54 and my mom, when she was 70, I'm like, it is awesome to age because it means that we are still here. Maybe that's why my mantra was I'm still here.
What are some mental tools that you would share with people to connect you into that moment as you're running? Like, I'm still here, I'm stronger than ever, I feel amazing.
I'm just a big movie nerd, so I love inspirational quotes. Like my favorite movies are the Rocky movies. I'm not sure if anyone's seen Rocky, Sylvester Stallone. I think because he reminded me of my dad a little bit. And honestly, I play those quotes sometimes in the hardest moments of races. So a few of my favorite ones are one in Rocky 3, he's fighting Mr. T. And basically, they think he can't win because he kind of outweighs him and he out-strengthens him. And he gets hit, and one thing he says, ain't so bad, ain't so bad. So I tell myself that, and then the other one is in Rocky 5, when he is speaking to his son, who is now taking over the family business, and the son asks him, he's like, aren't you embarrassed what people are saying about you? Because they think he's washed up, he's old. And he says, life ain't about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, how much you can take and keep moving forward, and that's how winning is done. So I love those little mantras, and a lot of times races will play Eye of the Tiger when you're running on mile 18, 19. And I like to think that I have that, and then I like to think I have, 2 guardian angels watching me out with mom and dad. So just taking all the inspiration I can.
I can see you maybe playing down, CIM, going into the finish line shoot, playing Rocky in your head, watching the, the video. All right, I'm going to take it back for you to marathon number 1, Stephanie. Okay? What would Stephanie now tell Stephanie about not just running, but about life?
Okay, so that was in 2008. So that was 16 years ago. One thing I always joke about, I ran Twin Cities. That was my first one. And I never run with a hat. I was like having my hair in a ponytail. And I had just this eerie feeling that morning. And I was like, I don't know, it just looks like it was clear out, but it just looked ominous. And I remember my husband was there. And we were like, maybe I should just grab a hat. And one, it was like the best decision I ever made because it downpoured that whole marathon. And I was just soaking wet, but I'm so glad I had a hat. And so what that told me was like, trust your instincts, right? So if you're the morning of the race, if something is telling you whatever it is, put an extra gel, do something. Like always listen to your instincts. I think for your intuition, you're usually right. And then I think I would tell myself, you're in for an amazing ride in this event. And like after doing my first one, I can't imagine where the distance would take me, and that like you're in for a wild ride. And I think anyone who's doing their first one has no idea what it's going to lead to. Like I said, you're going to finish and you're most likely going to say, I'm never doing that again. And you're going to sign up later. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes people ask, would you go back and do anything differently? And I 100% would not, because if I did something differently, then it would have changed the trajectory of how my life went. And I love all the lessons I've learned along the way.
Open it up for some questions. We're going to do that. You guys have a microphone, so.
Okay, all you got to do is raise your hand. It's that simple. I'll bring the microphone to you. You can ask your question. Obviously, Stephanie has offered quite a bit, but you may be thinking something that you would ask. And folks, we got a professional runner right here, so this is a great opportunity for anybody to ask a question. Right?
Hey, I'm Stephanie from South Carolina.
Great name.
I'm a huge fan. I'm a mom of two, and I'm also a pelvic floor therapist. So, what are your thoughts on pelvic floor therapy and how that can be beneficial for the lead?
First off, I love you. And my best friend is a pelvic floor specialist. So I think, honestly, not just for women who have given birth, but for all people is huge. I think most pelvic injuries, hip injuries, glute, like instability, any of that stuff all comes from the pelvic floor. So your work should be the running God's work. So maybe we're booking you a couple appointments after this. People should go up and meet Stephanie. I mean, it's huge. I think what happens over time is, right, you run and you're like, it's just my legs, my hips, everything. But everything on the inside of your body is what is holding you up, right? And I learned a lot of that because of coming back from pregnancy. I learned how important breathing exercises are, just for bracing your core. And so if you have a healthy and strong pelvic floor, you are unstoppable. Thank you.
Great question. All right, anybody else like to ask?
Nothing's off limits.
Nothing is off limits.
Man.
Okay, here we go.
Can you tell us how you feel?
How I fuel? Sure, yeah. Can I tell you how I fuel? So a lot of times for us, like I said, we have elite bottle stations, typically every 5K, every 3 to 4 miles. And so that ends up being 7 to 8 tables. So for me, the goal is I do a mixture of a carbohydrate solution, which is a powder, mix that into water, and then gels. But the biggest thing is trying to not have too much load on your gut at one time. So for the way I look at it is if I'm having a gel, I'm having a gel with water. That's going to help absorption. And then my next bottle would then be the carbohydrate solution. So I would never mix the carbohydrate solution with the gel because that could be a lot of GI distress. And I would say on average, those gels are anywhere from 25 to 30 grams. I usually shoot for 2 to 3 gels. So now we're looking at around 75 to 90 carbs, 90 grams of carbs. And then my drink solution, if I'm able to get all of it in, it's anywhere from 24 to 28 ounces, and that has 90 grams. So if everything went amazing, I would consume around 175 grams of carbohydrates. But that's thinking that I'm not having any GI distress. But a lot of times what happens is if we start running faster later and we're kind of burning through a lot of our glycogen, usually your stomach is saying, please don't give me any more. So a lot of the strategy is fuel early. And the real thing is, if you are fueled well in the weeks, the days, and all of your training cycle, essentially you should be able to make it 20 miles of that marathon, essentially without anything. You're really fueling for that last 10K. So just think of it as your miles are coming down and you're tapering. Keep all your calories the same, keep all your carbohydrate. You don't necessarily the whole carb loading. What really happens is it's because your mileage is coming down and your glycogen tank is being topped off. So that's why it feels like you're carb loading. Just eat the same that you've been eating during your training cycle, but because you're running less now, it should top off that storage. Yeah, and then fuel early when your body is more accepting of fuel and carbohydrates. So that could be anywhere from, like I said, 3 to 4 miles. Taking in some drink, a little shot of the gel. If you take a little shot of the gel, 3 to 6 times, you're going to start to consume a couple of a race. Yeah, so you're just feeling for that last 10K, really.
Let's see. Oh, wait, there's somebody out front here that would like to. He looks pretty young. Here you go, sir.
How do you run a marathon without the question was, how do you run a marathon without falling? You know what? Honestly, I practice, and I would think anytime you practice not falling, you're then hopefully going to translate that into the race. But the better question would be, what would happen if you did fall in the race? What would you do, right? Well, most runners stop their watch. Crazy. You would think to stop your watch. No, I think you just, when you're training, you really are athletic, right? So if you're an athlete, you got to think, okay, I could run side to side. I could pivot. I could run around people. I could jump over someone. I've had a few races where they've been shorter races that someone tripped, and I had to actually jump over them in the race. So you just have to think of yourself as, I'm not just a runner, but I'm an athlete. So you're going to stay on your feet. Thank you for the question.
That's my favorite moment so far in the expo. That was so professional. And you answered it so well, too. Like, okay,
I didn't see that coming. Really, no question?
You keep me on your toes.
All right.
I am, right now. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Probably. So anybody else want to answer a question? Like you said, off limits. So you can ask whatever. You can ask about Rocky movies. By the way, I control the music, so if I do see you, I may tap into that if I can. Okay.
I'm going to ask one more question. I think I'm here. So after the goal is handstand, what's next week?
Short term, time off, and some white wine. I take a break after every marathon, and I think that has been something really pivotal in my career that has allowed me to stay healthy. Is planned time off versus having setbacks or injuries. So usually I will not run at all next week, and then we will go to my other son's baseball tournament next weekend. Get ready for Christmas, and then 25 and beyond. It's up in the air right now, but all I know is I'm back to, I just don't feel done yet. So I'm excited to see, where that takes me.
Thank you so much, Steph. We've really enjoyed listening to you, and your passion and your resilience and your grit is so inspiring to me, and I know to everybody else out there. And I hope that the mantras and the goals and the state of mind kind of gives everybody inspiration on CIM Race Day, and then also as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much, and good luck to everyone.
All right, let's give a nice big hand for Stephanie and Jen. Good job. All right, so our next series that is going to be coming up, if you look at the calendar here, we got a 4 o'clock